I grew up near Lake Champlain in Vermont, where the water stretched like a dark mirror under the mountains, reflecting endless forests and the kind of sky that felt too big for one person to hold. I was average in school, good enough to pass, not good enough to stand out, but that never mattered much. Life was about the adventures, the lazy afternoons turning into wild nights with my three best friends. Jake, the daredevil who always pushed us further, Mia, sharp-eyed and fearless with a map, and Tyler, who could fix anything but was scared of nothing except being left behind. We were thick as thieves, bonded by the land itself. The place shaped us. Abundance of lake for midnight swims, mountains to climb until our hands bled, and thick forests that swallowed secrets whole. We were endlessly adventurous, sneaking out to explore old logging trails, abandoned cabins half sunk in the underbrush, or the foggy coves where the lake met the trees. Rumors of Champ, the monster they said lurked in Champlain's depths, were just campfire fuel to us back then, stories to laugh about while passing a flashlight. But those woods and waters had a way of pulling you in deeper than you planned, and one summer, our games turned into something we couldn't laugh off. This happened when we were in high school and summer vacation had just kicked off, that electric stretch of freedom where days blurred into nights without rules. We were old enough now, 16, cocky and restless, to camp out by Lake Champlain without our parents batting an eye. They knew the spot, trusted we'd come back scraped up but alive. We packed our gear, tents, sleeping bags, a cooler of burgers and sodas, and our beat-up kayak that had seen better days. With whoops and high fives, we hiked to our favorite cove, a hidden curve of pebbled shore cradled by pines, where the water lapped black and mysterious against the rocks. Evening found us sprawled by a crackling fire, goofing around like always. Jake telling exaggerated ghost stories about Champ, while Mia roasted marshmallows to perfection, and Tyler strummed his out-of-tune guitar until we begged him to stop. The air smelled of smoke and lake dampness, the kind of night that felt invincible. Then Jake, eyes glinting with that familiar mischief, suggested we take the kayak out. Under the full moon, it'll be epic, he said, pointing to the fat silver orb rising over the mountains, turning the water to molten silver. We laughed at first, but the idea stuck, pulling us toward the shore like the lake itself was whispering our names. Since we only had one kayak, we decided to take turns like we always did, 2 out on the water, 2 staying back to guard the camp and make fun of whoever looked the most terrified. Jake and I went first, of course. He claimed it was his idea, and I didn't argue. We pushed off from the rocky shore, the kayak wobbling for a moment before gliding forward, the paddle blades dipping into the moonlit surface with quiet, rhythmic splashes. We didn't go far, maybe 200 feet out, just enough to feel the camp shrink behind us. I could still see our fire then, a small orange glow flickering at the edge of the dark shore, with Mia's silhouette moving around it and Tyler's voice drifting faintly over the water. Jake started in on his usual stories about Champ, his voice low and dramatic, talking about glowing eyes and long, shadowy shapes curling beneath unsuspecting boats. I rolled my eyes and splashed him once, pretending not to listen, though I always did. Then, somewhere between his punchline and my reply, I glanced back toward the shore and froze. The campfire was gone. The shoreline, the trees, everything had disappeared. I looked up, expecting to see the full moon shining down, but the sky had vanished too. No moon, no stars. In every direction, a thick, colorless fog had rolled in, silent and absolute, swallowing the world in a matter of seconds. My chest tightened. "Mia? Tyler?" I shouted, my voice cracking as it bounced back to me in warped echoes that made the lake sound suddenly huge and hollow. Jake called out too, louder, his bravado slipping. There was no answer. No crackle of fire, no laughter from shore, just our own voices coming back at us from somewhere inside that dense, shifting wall of mist. The water around the kayak felt heavier, the air colder, as if the lake itself were holding its breath. For the first time that night, our adventure didn't feel fun anymore. It felt like we'd drifted into a place we weren't meant to find. We had a rough idea of where the shore should be, so we spun the kayak around and started rowing back toward it, or what we hoped was it, with quick, desperate strokes that sent ripples racing outward into the fog. The paddles felt heavier than before, cutting through water that seemed thicker, reluctant to let us go. Minutes stretched into what felt like forever, but the shore never appeared. No rocks, no trees, no flicker of campfire. Just endless gray mist pressing in from all sides, turning the lake into a featureless void. Our throats went dry, voices hoarse from calling out, and panic started to claw at the edges of our bravado. We turned the kayak the other way, paddling blindly in the opposite direction, praying we'd hit something, anything familiar. Every passing moment brought a new dread, the feeling of a presence just below us, something massive and alive shifting under the kayak. No big splash, no thrashing tail breaking the surface, just subtle movements, a faint pressure against the hull, like something circling, testing, waiting. "It's Champ," Jake whispered once, half joking, but his voice trembled. I wanted to laugh it off, a fish, a log, anything, but this couldn't be real. Champ was just a myth, a tall tale for tourists. Still, the water felt wrong, alive in a way that made my skin crawl. It felt like an hour had passed, maybe more, with us trapped in the middle of nowhere, rowing in circles through that suffocating fog. Our arms burned, sweat mixing with the chill dampness on our faces, and the whispers of movement below grew bolder, closer. The lake had us now, and no amount of paddling seemed to change that. We were adrift in a nightmare we'd paddled right into. Suddenly, as quickly as the fog had swallowed us, it lifted. One moment, the world was a choking gray void. The next, it peeled back like a curtain, revealing the lake's glassy surface and the familiar shape of the mountains rising sharp and unmistakable against the starry sky on one side. The full moon hung low again, bathing everything in silver light. That heavy presence beneath the kayak, the subtle shifts, the circling pressure seemed to drift away all at once, leaving the water still and innocent once more. My heart was still hammering, but I let out a shaky breath, gripping the paddle like it was the only solid thing left. We couldn't spot our campsite right away, the shore a dark, jagged line without its guiding fire, but with visibility back to normal, navigation felt possible again. We rowed steadily, scanning for the cove's telltale rocks, our eyes darting to every ripple and shadow. Time stretched, what felt like an eternity of tense silence, muscles screaming from the effort, but finally, faint voices cut through the night. There, near the edge of the water, stood Mia and Tyler, silhouettes waving frantically, calling our names into the darkness. Relief hit me like a wave, cold and overwhelming as we steered toward them, the kayak scraping against pebbles at last. Mia grabbed my arm as we dragged the kayak onto the shore, her face pale under the moonlight. "We went into the tent to grab some snacks," she said, voice unsteady, "and when we came out, you guys were just gone. No sign of the kayak, nothing. And there was no fog. We could see the mountains, the stars, everything clear as day." Tyler nodded, kicking at the pebbles. They'd figured our kayak had toppled, but since Jake and I were both strong swimmers, they hadn't panicked right away. Still, as minutes turned to what they swore was almost an hour, worry set in hard. They were about to hike out for help when our silhouettes finally emerged from the water. We sat by the rekindled fire that night, trading shaky explanations, but nothing added up. No fog for them, no hour lost, just us convinced we'd been adrift in that gray hell with something circling below. The presence under the kayak lingered in my mind like a half-remembered nightmare, too real to dismiss as tricks of the dark. We packed up at dawn, silent on the hike back, the lake looking deceptively peaceful in the morning light. This remains one of the most chilling episodes of my life. Now a city dweller with a desk job and streetlights that never fade, I don't get back to Lake Champlain much. The mountains and forests call sometimes, but I'd never go out on that water at night. Not again. Whatever Champ is, or isn't, some secrets stay better buried in the depths.